Beloved, welcome back to the shop. In today's video, we are going to twist some tails. I'm going to give some opinions because this is my channel and I do what I want on my channel. It is a very interesting time to be a YouTuber or a content creator. I was looking the other day and realized that I've been uploading on this site for 13 years. An entire generation has come into the fold since then, and unlike many of you, they were not born with all of this vast knowledge that you all seem to have, and that they're hungry for information. So in today's video, we're going to be covering how a guy should put together his first, or buy his first chainsaw and to put together a basic wood cutting kit. Your wood cutting kit should include, oh, that was close. You know, wisdom came into play when I perched this up here on my stand. A woodcutter's kit, tree falling kit, everything that a man would need to do these two jobs, to heat your home and to fell timber safely, should be able to fit in a milk crate. I learned this from my grandfather when I was just a boy. I started cutting firewood with him. He was a mechanic for Ford, and to supplement a little extra income in the family, we used to go out on the weekends and cut firewood and sell it and make a little bit of extra money for the family. And Granddad always kept all of his kit in a milk crate, and I've done that ever since. Let's start with chainsaws, what I would recommend, where you should start. I'll give a little tips and tricks, and then we'll get into the things that you need. This is not pie in the sky. This is a good place to start. Everything that you would need. This is what I grab when I go, and we go through 6-8 cords a year, and I've heated with firewood for almost 20 years now. Before I give you my recommendations, I'll show you the 3 saws that I use and I work with. And this is the smallest of the saws that I own. This is a Husqvarna T40 XP, a professional climber saw, a top bar saw. Did I say top bar? Top handle. Pro host struggles with nomenclature. A top handle saw, meaning it's very different in that you'll notice that all of the controls and everything are right on the top instead of on the back. You'll also notice its shape. It's shaped like a little ball, and it has a connection point for climbers. This is a saw that professional loggers, climbers, toppers will use, and the reason for its round shape is that it doesn't hang up on brush, and it can be pulled up and lowered down through without catching and snagging on the bushes. And of course, the lanyard can be hooked to your harness or to a safety line. The top bar, having the handle and everything in one, lends itself to be, you can operate it quite easily with one hand. And in some situations, you know, that's necessary and required. Don't confuse a small saw with not being a professional saw. That's got nothing to do with it. A small saw can be a professional saw, and what the big difference is, beyond price, is just build quality. These are going to be designed to run all day long. Guys that run them 40 hours a week, they're going to hold up, and they're just going to be better materials, more horsepower, lighter weight, usually just all around, just higher quality, and the price will reflect that. The reason why I own a top bar saw is not because I do a bunch of climbing, but these are really popular with guys that like to do trail work, and we are into moto, and you can mount these very nicely on the front of dirt bikes. You see how compact that is? These mount right to the forks, and these are really popular with a lot of guys. And the reason why I went with Husky instead of Stihl is because I have a Husky dirt bike, and I thought that that would be pretty cool. So these are available. They're very nice to use for smaller people. Mrs. W likes to use them. Very handy, very nice, but I would start with this. This would be a third saw for me. My second saw is the Stihl 261, superseded currently by the 262, a full-on professional saw. The smaller, I think it's the smallest of the professional saws, and a great choice for a first saw, or if you're not going to be real hardcore. Maybe hardcore is the wrong term. I would say if you don't live out west. This is not going to be a suitable saw if you live in the big timber of the Pacific Northwest, where you have giant forests. If you're just doing some small firewood or doing some limbing, but you want to have a professional or the best saw that money can buy, the 262 is a really good saw. It's also a good starter saw if you have boys or girls that you want to ease into it and teach, because it's not overly intimidating. It's not going to have the full wrap and the big power that you have on the big pro saws, but it is a workhorse that will probably be the last saw you ever buy if you take care of it. Now, if you're ready to drop your nuts and be a big boy, then we're going to go with the 461, 462, or the 500. A full-on West Coast full wrap, professional grade big saw. The 461, 462, the 500i, this is what the professional loggers out west are currently using. We live in logging country. Many of my friends are professional fallers. This is what they're using. And this is configured in the West Coast configuration, which is different. We have specific differences out here that are unique to the West Coast, and one of them is the full wrap handle. If you look at the 260, and you East Coast guys, you can have both of them, but they're probably a little bit more rare, I'm told over there. This is not a full wrap handle, meaning the handle is flush on the side and comes around only to one side. Now the West Coast guys, the loggers, we like the full wrap handles because it gives us the ability in uneven cutting positions when you're cutting really big timber where you have to hit it from both sides on the side of mountains. It gives you maximum versatility where you can really turn and manhandle and rotate the saw. Another thing that is going to be unique to the West Coast saws are these great big double dogs. These dogs are much deeper than what you're going to see on the East Coast saw because of the thick nature of the Douglas fir bark, and you need that. The little short dogs, they just are not suitable for that. In addition to the large bars, these big saws, these 462s, the 500s, these things can sling 32-inch bars. With all of this understood, the question remains, which should you buy first? I'm going to start from the position of I think you should buy a professional saw. I have never regretted buying quality tools. Not to say you can't get it done with the other ones, but that's where I'm starting, and I would rather save up a little bit and get the professional saw than deal with homeowner grade stuff. So here's what the advice that I would give you. If I was going to have two saws, I would buy this combination, the 262 and the 462 or the 500i. Have that 1-2 punch, a big saw and a small saw. You would not regret it. If I was only going to have one saw, I would go to the saw in the middle. Now, I wrote the prices down. If you to buy a power head, to buy this 262, the Pro version, or they're all Pro version, this power head's going to run you currently $679. Now, you got to factor in, you're going to have a bar and chain on top of that. So add another $300 by the time you get a couple chains. If you're going to go with the big saw, a Pro saw, this currently, the 462 for the power head only is almost $1,400, before tax. And you're going to have another $500 with a bar or two and a few chains. So you're going to be looking at $2,000 for a big saw like this. If I could only have one, I would go in the middle, the 362. The 362 is $950 for the power head, and that is a wonderful do-all saw that most guys can handle. It's going to be suitable for East Coast guy, and you can get by with firewood cutting on a West Coast guy, no problem. Now, if you find that these saws are completely out of your reach right now, it's better to have some saw than no saw. I would recommend the Stihl Wood Boss. $379. Now, this is not to be confused with a professional saw, but it is a quality tool that is an all-in-one package. For $379, you get the power head, you get a bar and a chain, everything that you need to get started. Is it going to be a powerhouse? No, but it's a whole lot better than having no saw at all, and it's a great entry point and a great price point. All right, let us get into the woodcutter's kit. The first thing you're going to need is a Dalmar. Your Dalmar is going to be a constant companion. Think of salt and pepper with your chainsaw. It's going to have your can for your mix and a can for your bar oil. The disparity of size of the two chambers is because the bar oil, you usually are going to use only half as much as the gasoline. And pro tip, the reason for the milk crate is that it keeps your Dalmar from tipping over. If you don't have this, you throw this in the back of your truck, it will tip over and you run bar oil all over the bed of your pickup. All your gas chainsaws are going to have two chambers. You're going to have a bar oil up front, which is a viscous, sticky oil. Do you see how runny that is, how sticky that is? That's by design. That has a lot of that stickiness because it keeps it on the bar. If you just use regular motor oil, it will fling it off and you'll burn up your bars quicker. They won't last as long. Over here, you're going to have your fuel. Now, some guys, my granddad used to keep a little paintbrush, and before he took the caps off, he would brush that off there. These are high-performance engines. They're like race engines. You don't want to get contaminants and fuel in there. So always brush it off, or at least blow it before you introduce, especially the fuel. Your saws are going to be 2-stroke, so they're going to require mixed fuel. Keep your saw full if you need it. If it's going to be long-term storage and you're not using it in the wintertime, run it dry and run it out of gas and store it dry. The front is typically going to be the bar oil. Now, if you mix these up, I see it all the time, don't lose hope. Just pour it out. If you put the oil in the gas, just rinse it out real good with a couple of tanks of gas. slosh it around, it'll be fine. Once you get your Dalmar, you're going to want to put together a basic a faller's belt, a tool belt that's going to have the things that you need on it for not only cutting firewood but falling. Tools and wedges. Now we need to talk about sharpening. Every man with the chainsaw thinks he knows how to sharpen a saw, and 99.9% of them do not, and I've seen everything. It's a skill. It takes a long time to learn. You have to commit yourself to it. You have to understand what pitch is, and I'm not saying you can't do it. It's just it's difficult to do with a round file. Once you understand it and get it, it's a commonplace. But I'm going to give you a cheat code. This is the Stihl came out with this sharpener. I don't know what it's called. I'll link it below. But this is an amazing tool. Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to see professionals using this, but I'll tell you what, I grab this thing and I use it all the time. And when I saw college students able to sharpen their saws on wildland fires because of this one tool, I am a big advocate, enough to buy one. This is an all-in-one sharpener that you can use and you can have great success with. It takes care of the rakers or the depth gauges. It's an all-in-one. It's one of the best I've ever came across, and I would highly recommend, if you're new to this, get yourself one of these. Ease into it. You'll have good success. You'll keep your saw sharp, and you'll thank me. Hey, you'll thank me, I promise you. Click that thumbs up, gentlemen. I'm sharing the knowledge. I'm working for you here. I do appreciate that. Next step, we're going to have our PPE, our personal protective equipment. 3 pieces, actually 4. 4 pieces will get you there. We'll start at the head and work our way down. Hard hat. You do not need a hard hat if you're cutting firewood. You do need a hard hat if you're felling timber. There's a term called widowmakers. The vibration of the saw when you're at the base of a saw can break loose or shake loose branches, widowmakers that will fall down and have killed a lot of men. In addition to that, if you're working with really big, powerful saws, it has been documented that if the saw were be able to get past this safety and kick back, that you could potentially save your head in the event of a kickback. Now, I don't know that I've ever seen that happen before, but having stuff falling out of the trees, I've experienced that, and that's reason enough. Safety glasses, if you wear normal prescription glasses, I think it's sufficient, in my opinion. I'm not going to go wear goggles over top of that. I'm not worried about the sides too much. One thing that is common among Western sawyers, wildland firefighters, are wire bugs goggles. These have a wire mesh instead of a plastic. You work so hard doing firewood and logging that you'll fog them up and you can't see. So these are non-fog, obviously. They're wire mesh and they keep the chips from flying in your eyes. So have some sort of a safety glass if you don't wear prescription. After that, a good heavy set of gloves. A trick to keep track of your gloves, because you always lose things out in the forest, is grommet them and put them on a carabiner and get in the habit of either wearing on your suspenders or on your belt, and just get in the habit of doing that and you won't lose them. But a good pair of split leather gloves. And then finally, chainsaw chaps. My granddad never would wear them. They were not done back in the day when men were men. But I think it's a worthy investment. I like the Stihl Pro Marks because they have a cargo pocket. And having a cargo pocket where you can throw some tools or a couple wedges when you're in the thick of it, falling big timber, is very handy. I like the shorter ones. They're not quite as hot. The downside with chaps is they're very, very hot. They sweat you really, really bad, but it's worth it. Now, you'll see I have cuts on my saws. I've actually done it, and anyone who's cut for any length of time has had close calls. There is a series of strands inside of these that when the saw comes in contact with them, it quickly gums up the sprocket, the drive, and kills the saw, hopefully before it can get to your flesh. And I've seen them work. I've tested them, and they're very effective. I've been told they don't work with electric. I can't verify that. But those are the 4 safety items that would be minimum for me. This is the parts kit that I carry in a small plastic tackle box. You can order on Amazon. And in this kit, I'm going to have an extra spark plug. I'm going to have an extra pilot bearing. These are wear rub guards that go on the side of the case. These are consumables. These wear out and fall out. The biggest thing you're going to want is an extra set of bar nuts. You'll sit them down, you'll lose them, they'll vibrate off, and that can send you home early. So handful of bar nuts, and then some replacement clutch springs. And that, gentlemen, is really all a guy needs. Grab your power saw, grab your milk crate, And whether it be an emergency where you need to cut a tree out of the road, firewood, timber felling, you'll be in pretty good shape to be able to do what you need to do minor repairs, get done what needs doing. May God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you all on the next video.